This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs on the Hogsty Network.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 7, Episode 25, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington across social media. And I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington sports and life as part of the mighty Hogsty Network, and on audio and here on YouTube, of course, for video. And all right, so Matt, the winning streak's over. The Washington Commanders are now faced with a must-win. Whatever. And they play Monday Night Football for those of you. It's a free Sunday to go rake leaves. And they're going to be playing the undefeated Eagles, who smacked them around the first time. And I don't really see much difference happening. Man, Philly's a good team this year. They made a lot of good offseason moves, and it's panned out for them. And, you know, are they a Super Bowl winner? I don't know. But they got a shot, you know. I mean, who else is that good?
Yeah. I mean, that A.J. Brown move is really working out for them. They even made a move at the deadline to get Robert Quinn from the Bears, so their defense has gotten solid again. You know, look, we kind of talked about it in the last show. Who really cares what happens at this point? Christmas came early, you know. We're still riding high off of the Snyder announcement, but yeah, I mean, you know, this was supposed to be the Carson Wentz game back in Philly, and that's why it's on Monday night, and of course he's hurt. So I don't know. Might be a halftime bedtime for me.
Yeah. All right. We have more important things to talk about. So I'll just say I'm picking Philly 30, Washington 13.
The Texans gave Philly a little bit of a scare there in the first half last game, but eventually Philly shut them out in the second half. And I'm actually kind of liking your score. I'll go 34-17.
All right. Play price the right way.
It's what a 10.5 number right now. So
yeah,
take the
Eagles, you know, the Philly games are the weird games of the season.
I know.
You never know.
But hey, look, the last one went pretty much the way we all thought it was going to go.
Yeah. All right. So does this pending sale, and Ron's had to answer this a couple of times already, does it bring a sense of urgency to the coaching staff to try and do something now, knowing that if they finish like 7-10 again, you know, they're gone probably. And well, you're supposed to have a sense of urgency anyway. You know, there's only 17 games. You're supposed to try and win, but I think it does. I think it does make them try and do some things to win if they want to save their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There should be urgency from the start of the season. Yeah, I would say there's probably urgency with the new ownership group coming in. But like you had talked about too, I mean, there's going to be, depending on what time of year the sale is final. Look, the NFL has become a full year, you know, league. They're not playing full year, obviously, but stuff doesn't stop around the NFL anymore. There's not really an off season, so you know, sure, they may get a little bit of a stay when the new ownership group comes in, depending on the time. Because, like you said, do you make wholesale changes in March if it gets approved in March? No, you probably don't, because you got a draft to look forward to, and you got free agency coming up, and then you got, you know, you got to get your staff and everybody situated. So, and you know, look, I'll be honest with you too. Depending on who gets the team, they may sit down with Ron and say, "Hey, man, look, we know you've had to kind of do what you could with this team with not a lot of money to spend on free agents, and you've had to deal with the, you know, the cheerleader stuff, and you've had cancer, and now his mother passes away. Like, he's had a lot on his plate over the past couple of years since he's been head coach of the Washington franchise. So maybe they kind of give him a little bit of leeway for another year. But I think at the end of the day, a new owner is going to come in here and put people that he wants in place, whether it's this year or next year.
So we're at midseason, sort of, with a 17-game season. There isn't a true midseason unless it's halftime of the last game. But I'm known for giving out post game grades, which people often like to yell at me about. But they're flash grades, first impressions. They're not deep dives. But here we are midseason. I guess I'm going to write about this for 1067 The Fan. Is that right for? But if I had to give this team a grade at 4 and 5, I would say I'd probably give them a C- or a D+, because I thought maybe they'd be like a game better. But nobody thought they were going to be 10-2 or something this year. So I think they've done it in weird ways. But I think overall they played about okay.
Yeah, I can see that. About a C-. I mean, it's funny with this team over the past couple of years is they're supposed to come in gangbusters. You've got Chase Young, you've got Deron Payne, you got John Allen, you got Montez Sweat, you got all these guys on the defensive line that you put first round picks into, and you got a first round linebacker that's supposed to take the next step, and you've got William Jackson that you paid all this money to, and Kendall Fuller who you brought back, and you've got all these guys, and then look, you get rid of Jackson, and they play better. You know what I mean? Like it took them a couple games, but they've played. The defense has stepped up and been pretty dang on good. The offense ain't helping them out by going 3 and out all the time, and that's another thing too. You were expecting to have this 2-headed running attack with Brian Robinson and Gibson, and I want to give the guy a little bit of credit because he took a bullet to the knee, and but Robinson hasn't really had that explosiveness that we saw in the preseason before he was shot. So maybe he's not quite ready. Maybe the NFL is a lot faster than he had thought, and it's going to take some time to adjust. Jahan Dotson came in and made 3 circus catches for touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, and then he got hurt. So, I think you're right there. I think they're at about a C-. 1 or 2 more hiccups here and it's a failing grade, but maybe they can squeak by on an average.
One of the big disappointments to me has been tight end. In the preseason, you looked at it and said, man, they got this guy, this guy, this guy. And then everybody got hurt, and then they still have problems with injuries. And a position that was going to be a strength, and I think if you have good tight ends, you really hurt defenses. They just haven't been able to get anything out of the position. And even with Heineke around, so that's my biggest surprise of this season is tight end hasn't done anything.
Yeah, and I wanted to specifically highlight Logan Thomas. Obviously injuries aside, do you think that maybe we overvalued him? Because look at his breakout season. It was with Alex Smith as quarterback. Alex Smith, didn't really have that down the field option that much like we had thought. Whether it was because of the leg, he couldn't push off the back leg or whatever it was. But, Logan turned a lot of mid-range passes into game breakers. And ever since Smith is gone, obviously he didn't get to play with Fitz, but for a half, Heineke doesn't have time to throw him the ball. And neither did Carson Wentz. So maybe we overvalued Logan Thomas a little bit because of who the quarterback was. But yeah, that whole group, I know Bates is the blocker, and they brought in, everybody was going crazy for Cole Turner, and we have yet to see what everybody else saw in college.
Yeah, I saw him make like one decent play, but the injuries have really cost him so much.
And honestly, Rick, you kept Armani Rogers, and he's made plays when he's on the field, but the problem is they don't ever give him the ball. What do you have yesterday or Sunday? Like a 24-yard run on a jet sweep by a tight end. That boy had some speed.
Yeah, he's been a nice surprise on all of this, but that's definitely one that surprised me. And yeah, I thought Robinson would do more. Ironically, they arrested 2 teenagers this past couple of days involved in that shooting. I think they were now 15 and 17-year-olds.
Yeah, they were 14 and 16 at the time of the shooting.
Yeah, so that's really scary that young guys like that are willing to shoot people. But yeah, I think that took something out of Robinson, and understandably. So I'm a little disappointed. But then the offensive line has just been junk too at times. So there's nowhere to run. There's died.
Yeah, and
You know,
it was weird because the previous game against the Colts, we got to see Gibson actually bounce outside, go off tackle, and turn a lot of those runs into big gains. And they seem so unwilling to run those plays. It just baffles me. A lot of what I saw on Sunday against Minnesota was, you have an offensive line that is banged up that can't really protect, but yet the only time they really rolled Heineke out that I can recall is on a 4th and 1. I mean, you got to get the guy outside the pocket. We saw what he did standing in the pocket. These defensive linemen are just teeing off on him and knocking the ball out of the air.
Scott Turner's play calling has mystified me anymore. I tried to defend the guy, but not anymore. I mean, 3rd and inches, you throw an incompletion, of some distance. That was dumb.
Yeah.
And then in 9, you have a quarterback keeper that had 0 chance. I think it got a yard.
Yeah.
What are these?
Turner has shown an inability to form the offense around Heineke's strengths. And it's funny because I feel like no matter what quarterback it is, except for Wentz, I mean, I feel like they kind of developed a game plan around Carson's strength, which is throwing the deep ball and kind of bootlegging it and getting outside. But with Heineke, man, and this offensive line, it's like, I don't understand how you and I can sit here. I'm in my garage and on Sundays I'm sitting on my couch watching this team and I'm just like, Scott, what are you doing? Like, at this point, I would take Norv.
It's just funny that a month ago everybody wants to fire Del Rio, and now everybody wants to fire Turner.
Yeah, now Del Rio is one of the better coordinators on the DM team.
Yeah, the really sad news came out during the game that we learned that Joe Gibbs' son, Coy, passed away.
Yeah,
Saturday night, died in his sleep. And, the heartbreak of that is Joe Gibbs' 2 sons now both died at age 49.
Yep.
That was just, wow. I mean, the grandson, Ty, who's Coy's boy, had just won a NASCAR championship hours before and had a picture of them on the track together.
Yeah.
And, whew, man, that was just tough. I was having trouble watching the game because I was chasing that down. And I thought, wow, I feel bad for Joe. I mean, that's just, lose both your sons. At 49, JD died a few years ago of cancer. Life's short.
Yeah, and if you recall, I mean, one of the reasons that Joe decided to leave the team, I don't know if it was the first time or the second time, but it was because of his family was kind of, having some issues, and for this to happen, you just feel for Coach. But Rick, real quick before we get out of here, I have to declare you need to find every last penny to re-sign Daron Payne.
Yeah,
that guy is a stud. That's all I gotta say.
What I like about Daron Payne is he has gotten measurably better every year.
Yep.
He started off decent, but he's gotten better every year.
Yep.
And people often ask me, all right, do you re-sign Sweat or Payne in the end? Who do you spend your money on?
Payne.
I would Payne.
Yep.
I do.
There it is. Re-sign Payne.
All right. Time to go. I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent on the Hogstye Network.